no great intro. We just kind of go right into it when we see people.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, let's give it a few minutes. Could you get that over there? We have a big giant monitor over on the side there because we're old and we can't see the comments that great on the phone. So we're just trying to get that up and running.
There we go.
All right, 8 o'clock, almost. There we go. Good evening. Good evening. We'll give it a few more minutes till everybody gets in here. Hello, Kathy. How you doing? How's everyone tonight? Monday night. We can't seem to not be busy. Hey, Michael. Carrie, how you doing? Donna? Oh, I'm looking over there. Okay, I see it. How's everyone doing? I'll give it a few more minutes just to make sure before I introduce our guests here. Laura, Bonnie, how's everyone doing? Mary, you guys are in for a treat. You're in for a treat. Let me tell you again about who's joining us tonight. I'm going to call him Ed. He said Edward, Eddie, Ed. I'll call you Ed. Ed Anderson. Now, how did we meet Ed? Who did somebody recommend him to you?
Actually, no.
Judy K.
Actually, no, it wasn't.
No.
I did. I'm the one. You need to stop. You had nothing to do with it, so you don't even know. But anyways, you had put in a thing. I don't even know if you remembered. And I have a logbook where I wrote down names and numbers and what people did. And yours stood out. And I actually had reached out to you, and I reached out to Buddha Hawk. And I didn't get a response back. And I just assumed you guys weren't interested. And then when I started doing more interviews, I reached back out to you again. And then we ended up having that phone conversation where I said, you've got to come try this.
I do remember that. Yeah, I was on my lunch break, and I was talking to you on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
So Ed, again, we've done these psychic fairs now for, God, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years now. I don't even know. But Ed is the first one who's done Rune and Bone Readings. We're going to get into that and what it is and how you do it and all that. But Ed, we'll first let you talk about yourself, how you got into doing this whole thing, your background, that whole thing. Just let people know who you are and how you got into this.
I mean, the background, there was a lot of stuff going on. I think how it started, and I can think my parents they always encouraged me to read. They always kind of encouraged me. Any books I wanted, they would always pick up for me. And my background, my father's side is Swedish. So I always grew up, and I think that helped with the runes because I was always hearing about the Vikings, Norse mythology, and then people would buy the books for me. And then when I was around 12, 13 in that area, I got into martial arts. And it was specifically Chinese Kung Fu. And the teacher was very traditional about things. So they had like statues of Buddhas and all this. And it just caused me to begin asking my mom for, hey, can you buy me this book on Buddhism and stuff like that? Because I was in like 6th grade.
Wow.
And she's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. It sounds fine. So I really got into that. And then that kind of took over even more than the physical martial arts. Like I started just really reading up on that. And that was my introduction into what I would say like the occult, things like that, where it's just the meditation practices and like the transcendentalism and the Zen and all these things. I started training with other teachers, but I didn't quite really know where to go with it. And then as I really started realizing, because at the time in high school, I didn't know any Nordic paganism was still a thing. Like I didn't know how to modern practice or that runes really people even did. So I started realizing that and started getting into that. But at the same time, my background really kept going back to the Buddhism because just the whole everything is energy and everything is just an aspect of yourself and your thoughts and your reality. So when I started learning runes, I feel like I had a unique perspective on the whole thing because I kept taking it back to more like the Buddhist training and the Eastern thought when it's like, if we're all energy and we're all just trying to like ride this ocean here, ride these waves through everything, then pretty much all these runes, it's just tapping in and trying to figure out where we're at, what's going on, and things like that. And And yeah, I kept just picking up different books, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't inspired by a lot of different philosophers. Because when I do readings, different times I'll bring up, especially Marcus Aurelius. He's probably my all-time favorite. But even different books on like chaos magic, chaos theory, like condensed chaos, and and honestly, some of the authors who are technically fiction, people like August Derleth and Arthur C. Clarke, especially Lovecraft. Lovecraft was huge with me. And you start reading up books on the philosophy of what he was trying to say, and it's like, sure, these things are fictional characters, but the thought and the energy that's pumped into them over time has made that a very real and plausible thing to tap into.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
For someone like me, I don't know anything about runes. I'll be honest with you. I think it fascinates me when I see them, and I've watched one person kind of read them, but I don't think she was that experienced in doing it. Is there one way, like I've seen books and stuff? Is there one way to read them, or is it interpretive type of reading?
There's a general outline. It's kind of similar to tarot,
right?
Where like you have a basic meaning of what the card means or what the rune means, but where it lands, what it lands next to, and like there's different runes that like if they're next to one or if they're leaning on top of one another, it changes everything based on the numerical order.
Wow.
So I would say there's a lot of interpretation to it. Some people just like tarot, they'll read them inverted, and I read mine upside down. So like if they're facing upside down, that's a totally different meaning than even inverted.
Now, is there a reason for that? Is it because the way they lay, or just the way you just read them that way because it's your way of reading them?
That's just how I do it. Like,
okay.
If you ask 50 different rune readers, you're going to get 50 different methods of doing it.
It's what calls to you.
Right, yeah. And
so
people seem to like the results, so
I don't even, again, I've looked at them a little bit here and there. Are there symbols, letters, both? Like what am I looking at? Or
a lot of the letters are actually the basis of the Roman alphabet. Let me see.
Okay.
Like Tiawaz, this is the one that actually became our letter T. So it stands for a T. And there's a Berkana, which looks just like a letter B, and it represented B to them. And then as time went on, it became our Roman alphabet. Like, here's one, Hagalaz. It's the H.
Okay.
So some are symbols, some look a lot more like letters. But it was their actual pre-Viking, because I read Elder Futhark, which is like maybe like a couple hundred years before the Viking era.
Wow.
So they knew of it, and that was how they were writing things down, was in runes. But then there's also the spiritual meanings behind them, because when you had like the Volva and like the witches, like the Nordic witches who were casting these stones, they were just using letters of their own alphabet.
So in a rune, like if you buy, what do you do? Is the runes come in a box? Is there a certain number? There's
20. The Elder Futhark, there's 24.
24.
All
letters.
Three
letters
sets
and
of
symbols, or just letters and symbols, or just a combination?
All the symbols, even if it's not like a modern letter, represents some letter. Like, hold on, I got it here. So like that's how you can write out names and stuff in them. Trying to find one now, I can't find one that doesn't look like it. Okay. This is Nothies. This actually was their letter N.
Okay.
So, but when you would write it, like if you would, write a word that begins with N, that's how you would write the N.
Wow.
So take me through a reading. I'm sitting in front of you. I mean, we're going to do this in a minute, but is it like tarot or something? Are you picking up on the energy of whoever's in front of you, or is it strictly based on what the runes are saying in front of you?
I go a lot based on the people themselves, because a lot of it, I don't want to say the word channeling, but a lot of it is just kind of, I'll definitely be interpreting it, and it might not even 100% have to do with what the runes are pulling. They're definitely a guideline, but I'll be saying stuff that's just not totally on the rune.
Okay.
And how I do them is like, I always go by 9. 9 was a sacred number to the Old Norse, the ancient Norse. So I'll have them pick any 9 of the runes and cast them on my casting board. And then I like where they land, face up or face down. That's what I go off of.
Huh. So you had mentioned meditation and things like that. I know tarot readers, some mediums, they do enter like a meditative state prior to doing readings. Is there anything of that involved before you sit down and let anybody come over? Do you have to do any kind of process prior to?
I don't always do that because a lot of places I read, like for instance, I read at the Renaissance Fair.
Right.
At the Renaissance Fair, it's really difficult to do.
Oh yeah.
Because there's always like cannons going off and stuff. But there's certain states I don't want to be in when I'm doing readings. Like I don't want to be definitely no drinking, no substance, anything like that. I don't even like being super caffeinated because I feel like it's definitely interrupting like my own intuition, flow, whatever you want to call it. But certain other things like more bones, like if I'm doing a bone reading, I feel like I have to like kind of, even if it's 30 seconds, just take a calm, slow down, start breathing, just focus on what's going on, relax. Because if you go into it with, that goes back to the Buddhist training I was saying, like, if your mind is all unfocused and you're all kind of chaotic and all over the place, you're going to go into the reading already knowing exactly what outcome you're going to get. And then you're going to convince yourself of what the reading is before you start.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you kind of get the mixed signals and don't get the clear reading that you're supposed to be doing.
You have to ground yourself.
Now, I know tarot readers, I know mediums, and this is just a general question. If you're reading the runes and it's not good, how do you present that? Do you just kind of allude to it or say, hey, I'm looking at some stuff here and it ain't good?
See, that's funny because that changed over time.
Okay.
When I first started, I'm going to say I definitely had more gloves on with people, like the kid gloves on. But sometimes it's very difficult to do. And I've noticed especially, maybe I'm getting better at like my bedside manner, but I'm still giving them this information, but I'm definitely not filtering it quite as much.
Okay.
Especially I've done, one woman came earlier in the year and said about, hey, I just met this guy. And like every rune was essentially just run, just get out, run.
Wow.
And the way I worded it for her was I just said to her, I said, without even looking at these runes, you came up to me not knowing me 10 seconds ago and asked if you are in a good relationship. You most likely already know.
Uh-huh.
And she got the vibe without me having to tell her.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
if it would be tarot cards, I would have pulled like the Devil, Emperor, Reverse, right there. I'd be like, all right, it's time to go. Everything was just saying like bad news, bad news.
I always wondered about that because I always put myself in that position of the person of like, all of a sudden I throw the runes or I'm turning over the tarot, however it works, and all of a sudden I look at it and I'm going, oh crap. And I'm looking at the person, I'm looking at whatever I'm reading, and if it's bad, I would want to know. That's why you're doing the rune on tarot because I don't want to know.
I'm never gonna lie to people. That's the thing.
No, it's about the delivery, though.
Exactly.
You don't want to cause harm. You actually want to make sure that person understands that they're getting the answer that she wanted the answer, and you predicated it very well.
A big way you can really word that well with people is if you just tell them, be like, hey, don't rush into anything.
Yeah.
Make sure you take your time to think everything through before you jump at any of these decisions. And usually people get the message that it's like, all right, I need to slow down and really make sure everything's going on.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of readers. We've met a lot through the years, Judy Kay being one of them, where you get these people, like anything else in life, where they kind of become fixated on one particular thing, if it's a tarot, if it's a general reading. Do you get people like that with runes as well, where they're like, hey, I got to come back to you in 2 weeks or a month because I'm starting a job or whatever, something's going on, changed in my life. Could you read the runes and tell me what's going to happen?
I have a lot of people, especially at Ren Fair, people just because they know me. I'm always in the same booth, same spot for a couple of years, and the Ren Fair is 3 months long, and I'll see them 4 or 5 times, and you'll see them walking up the hill looking for where exactly I'm sitting. So yeah, you definitely get clientele who want that specific thing. Like they'll want runes and have no interest in tarot. Or one of my partners there, she does palm readings, and they'll come to her and just want palm readings and want nothing from no one else.
Again, we've seen enough of that through the years to where I don't. Again, I've seen people like Judy and others that literally people will go to them once a week because they want to know. Like they won't make a step or a move in their life without consulting with somebody with the cards or the something. And I find that kind of strange. I'm superstitious myself, but I'm not that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here.
Let me real quick put it out there because I get people that are saying hello, wanting us to respond. Edward is not doing
No, he's not doing
any
readings.
readings. He's doing demonstrations of it tonight, from bone reading and to rune readings, but he's just doing a demonstration. He's not reading anyone.
I mean, we'll tell you how to get in touch with him.
Yes.
So if you do want a private reading, we'll have all of his information at the end. But no, he's not going to do random readings. He's going to read Chris with the runes and me with the bones. So because we've talked about the runes all this time, let's start with Chris here and see what we get.
Oh, you want a rune reading now?
I mean, let's give it a shot. Let's see what
I need
happens.
to get you back there a little bit.
He and that's another quick
I
thing.
think bad stuff about relationships in there, Ed.
No, you'll be good.
So real quick before we get started,
Yeah.
I've seen people do rune readings before, but it's the first time I've seen someone with a board. You have something in front of you. Could you real quick explain that?
Yeah, sure. The traditional way they always say was rune casting, because people would hold them and actually cast them, throw them. And I have one that's usually all painted up, has different Viking symbols on it and everything. That's more my show one. I have that at the Renaissance Fair, but I use just a wooden disc like this. And part of that is the way I do the reading. If they bounce off for some reason, just to me, that means they're not necessary.
Okay.
And it also allows me, because closest to the middle is going to be where I'm going for as most important, and radiating outwards is a little less important. It gives me a better sense of like what is the main message right now and what is, the backup essentially.
Perfect. Thank you.
And just before, it's rune. It's RUNE.
Yeah.
Not like ruin.
No,
it's
not rune. I get that a lot, but no, it's runes. Okay, I'm going to tip the camera.
Okay.
So how I do this with people, I always have the 24 runes in a bag.
Okay.
And I tell people randomly to draw any 9, and I have them just sit them. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I don't have them look at them, even though most people don't know what they mean. But
wait, take me through that again. So you don't use all 24. You have people pick out 9.
I have them pick out 9. The only
Gotcha.
time I do 24 is if I'm doing a full year reading, and I'll do 2 for every month and
Gotcha.
lay it out month by month. And a lot of times I might offer that around January or like late December, so people can have a whole year plan.
Right.
Nice.
But normally I just have them do 9.
I like that.
9 worlds of Nordic mythology. So then I have them put them in their hands, take a couple breaths, just slow down. If they have a question, just think about it, relax. And then when they're ready, they open their hands and drop them.
Okay.
And I tell people, it's like if they bounce off, some of them bounce off, that's fine. Don't throw so that they all miss. But just relax, open the hands. So I had 2 bounced off here. These 2 aren't necessary right now. Now, I would say for this one, there's 1, 2, 3 landed face up. Face up is going to represent the present situation, what you need to know. Closest to the middle is your most important. So you got two almost exact. I'm going to read those two together. You got a Fehu. Fehu has a lot of meaning. You actually kind of pulled two of the big ones right here in the beginning. Fehu does mean wealth. It's prosperity. It's a success, kind of like the sun in tarot. It's the first rune in the series. So it also represents a lot of new beginnings, a lot of new prosperity and success coming. So I read it both. It's not just wealth and like things like that, but it's also all these new things coming. Next to it is Anzos. Anzos is the rune of the god Odin. So Odin is always, he was the wanderer. He went out, he sought knowledge, he sought wisdom. This rune typically has to associate with getting messages, but internal messages, listening to your own intuition, being able to develop these feelings, feel things for yourself. So these, as most right here together, a lot of new things are about to happen and a lot of new things are about to start successfully for you. But the key to your success, most and foremost, is not only figure out what's working for you, develop like your own research and all that, but it has to feel good inside. You can't let other people dictate to you what to do, let them basically shake your vibe, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
If you're not putting in your own thought and it's not feeling right with you, that's not the path. But as soon as you get everything together and focus everything that you want and you're feeling it with your heart, you're feeling it with your instinct, that's when everything starts to become the success. That's all right there. It's all waiting for you. It's just kind of waiting for you to slow down, breathe, and figure out exactly what it is you want to do. The next one in your present is Awaz. Awaz is the rune of the horse. Now, that's always, they say it's a partnership between a man and a horse. Now, I always say that one because always the horse is also forward momentum. It's similar to the chariot in tarot. But the partnership between the man and the horse, and the man, he can move forward, he can overcome anything with this horse, but he has to have the blanket, he has to have the saddle, he has to have all of his equipment, he has to have everything in working order, working together with this horse. All those pieces of the horse, everything you need, those partnerships, that's your mind, that's your body, your spirit, your thoughts. So basically, I tell people that when Awaz rune shows up, it's saying there's forward momentum coming, but you got to focus and you got to get everything on the same page. It's, everybody's trying to do 10 things at one time and they're doing 9 of them terribly. So as you can just kind of slow down, focus, do the checklist before you take off, it's going to be a lot easier to succeed. So that combined with these new beginnings, but trusting yourself, it's essentially saying, and right now in the present, it's time to slow down and do the introspection, figure out what do I really want and what do I need to do, as opposed to running out and just trying to please everyone else. I need to be focused, and then the success is waiting for me. Moving into the future, they're all kind of equally spaced. I'll start with this one, Laguz. Laguz is the rune of the lake. I always usually just say water. Now, if you think about water, not only is it related to emotion, but it's always adaptability, it's flow. Kind of like Bruce Lee said in that famous interview when he's like, you should be like water. Whatever you place water in, water becomes that. Water can adapt, it can flow, it can change. So in your future, it's really saying that as these new beginnings are coming up, you have to be like a river flowing downstream. Rocks get in the way, obstacles get in the way. Don't try and smash through them. Move around, be creative. It's a little bit associated with that Norse god Loki, who, as much trouble as Loki would cause, he was also able to kind of make everything right in the end, usually because he had to, but he had to be creative. He had to come up with clever ways to do things. He couldn't just stand there and ram his head against the wall. So this is really telling you, just be adaptable. You have to be able to be creative. You have to be able to move through things, adapt to everything coming. Rideho. Rideho is the rune of the journey. Also became our letter R. Now, what Rideho is saying is, as the journey, the path that you're on, it's not a short path. It's not an easy path. You picked it, and now you're going to be on it for a long time. But it's always going to be It's always going to be forward momentum. Everything's going to be going the right way for you. Just got to make sure you stay adaptable. The next one here is Nothies. Nothies is necessity. So that's kind of the only rune here that's picking on you so far. Because what this one is saying is it's absolutely necessary that you go through this, and that it is difficult because it's the only way you're going to be able to do it right. Because, I mean, everybody knows where you always see those people where they've had everything handed to them and everyone does all their work for them. And then they run terrible. Like you guys run events. They run terrible events and like they do all this different stuff. And it's because they've never had to earn it. Nothies is saying you're on the journey, you got to earn it. And the last one here is the rune Thorisas. Thorisas is associated with the god Thor. So that's just basically overcoming every obstacle, being able to smash everything that's in front of you and just overwhelming power. It's almost, you are unstoppable. You just essentially need to put in the work. You need to go through all this. It's kind of like you watch an old action movie. Now you're in the training montage, you know? So that's a basic, basic rune reading.
It's more accurate than you realize
that
in
was
so
awesome.
many different ways because one, I am a very my life has never been easy. I don't expect it to ever be easy. I had I told John a few weeks ago, I was talking to my younger sister, and I've come to the realization that in this life, it's not supposed to be easy. And there's a reason for it. And I know that this is the path and I'm on the right path because of it. And the focusing and to getting success.
Putting in the work. She definitely needs to put in the work.
Oh, you're so full of
because I do all the work. Right. So putting in the work. Thank you for hammering that point home.
You know what about the focus? I am drawn into many different directions because we do so much. There's so much all the time that to get focused, I actually do have a goal that I stopped doing for myself that I know that I need to do. And that's writing a book for a specific reason to help people. And I know I started it, but I stopped. And that's a goal I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, one thing I always told people, and I always thought is, if you're one of those people where it's like you're always trying to do and do and do for other people, but you're never refilling the tank, how much of yourself are you giving? And eventually you're just going to burn yourself out. And then you're no use to anyone. You're no good to anyone. So I'm very big in like a lot of classes I teach and everything. I tell people, it's like, you need to have your downtime. You need to do what you do for you too.
So talk a little bit about that. We didn't know anything about the classes and stuff. What is that? What type of classes? What does that entail?
Well, I mean, I've over the years, God, I've been teaching martial arts since I was like 13.
Wow, that's crazy.
Maybe I was teaching when I was like 15. I don't remember it. At this point, it feels like a century. But I started like teaching kids classes, but no, like I taught lots of tarot classes, rune reading classes. I taught breathing exercise classes. I had like a residency in a permanent store where I was just coming in and like offering classes once a month.
You don't do that anymore, though. You don't do any of that anymore, as far as.
I would love to. I recently, in the last 2 months, moved.
Okay.
And it's about maybe an hour and 15 minutes away. So I had to kind of settle down and like get into the stability of the fact that like I just moved, you know, and like finding a new area because I think I moved like 3 counties over, which doesn't seem like a lot, but like you realize when an island. I used to live in Berks County. Berks County is just definitely like its own little island, its own planet. So everything's a little different, just an hour away.
You did that whole thing again. I know I was listening to you in the beginning talk about how, you know, when you do these readings, it does sound more of a hands-on thing where people pick the runes and they handle them and then they you know think of, but you did that actually without doing that at all. You were able to do that remotely. Do you do that remotely? Do you ever do that via Zoom, Skype, whatever?
Yeah, I've done a lot of remote readings for people.
That
I
was
was
very
actually
good.
projecting when you were saying you always say you have a question or whatever. I was projecting what I wanted from the runes, why you were why you pulled out the 9 when you said that, and it was pretty dang on spot for
That
what I
was really
wanted
good.
answers
I
to.
was impressed. I mean, I was afraid once you started talking about people handling them, and I'm thinking, okay, what we were talking about, energy, Buddhism, whether their energy factored mostly into the actual reading with them handling it and dropping it, but it didn't seem
So
to matter at all.
here's the thing, and like it is one of the Buddhist teachings is the non-duality. You, me, the laptop I'm talking on, the table, the air, it's all made of the same energy. It's all just basically the same vibration. So that's why I think you can do it remotely, no problem,
Right.
because we're all it is tapping into the same
We're
waves.
all connected. I
Absolutely.
believe that we're a
I
collective.
got to get into this Buddhism. I don't
Yes,
know
you
anything
do.
about Buddhism, but it sounds like something that's more relative to me than any other.
The thing
You
about
know,
Buddhism I always really liked is my one of my teachers up in New York City. He explained it to me. He said Buddhism is never a religion.
right?
Buddhism is the sprinkles on the ice cream of whatever religion you believe in.
Okay.
It's a way of life.
See, I like
It's
that
It's
though.
a way of thinking, and like the
yeah.
whole main thing is it's just like you have to be present. You can't always be worried about what's coming because you have to be here. And like your thoughts really affect your reality, and your thoughts create your own reality and your outcomes and affect everything. And a lot of times that's easier said than done.
Right.
But if you can just kind of stop and breathe and be like, why am I upset? Is anything actually going on other than my own mind upsetting me?
See, I like that. I like that a
Right?
lot. He's going to be my Yoda. I think I'm going to contact Ed and learn all this stuff. I could use this in my life because
Well, you
you're
got
talking. You're talking exactly the stuff. I mean, again, I don't want to get personal, but like things the last couple of days have manifested because of other people and other thoughts and other words that really I started to fire in me internally that
Mhm.
caused my aggravation, my misery, and you know what I mean. So it kind of right along that.
It definitely, I'm very thankful for it because now I'm good. But like I went through some chaos with some people a couple of years ago, and it was just I was being tried at every direction, and I feel like if I didn't have that falling back to just be like, okay, I can't control what's outside of me. I need to just breathe and focus and get through this. A good analogy I heard, same teacher who said about the sprinkles on the ice cream, was he was talking about Buddhism, and he said how there's outside stress, there's always people, there's these thoughts, there's all this stuff going on all the time. He made it akin to a submarine. You're in a submarine, you're totally fine if you keep all that water outside.
Yep.
But if you open that hatch up and you let everything in, that's when you drown.
Wow.
And that to me has always really helped me, like that thought when it's just like, and it's absolutely not foolproof. You
Right.
know,
Of course.
you're definitely
No, but
those
it's a
days when
good
you
way to lead into when all that noise is out there or that water that you know what you need to do to keep it out.
Wow.
and then like when I really got in with the Norse stuff, like yeah, there's a pantheon and everything. You have like Odin, Thor, all them. I believe they're all aspects of that same energy that at some point humans, we had to put faces on things.
Right.
That's not saying they don't have their own identities and their own consciousness, but I personally don't believe there's a bunch of invisible Vikings up in the sky. There may be, I don't know, but like from my point of view, it's like to me they represent things inside myself.
Right. It's conceptual.
Things I need to work on. Like I have on my altar, like I have an altar upstairs, and I have a Thor's hammer on there, and it's like I got one here too, but I have like a nicer one. And it's like, okay, this represents strength. This represents protection. That's the type of man I want to be. I want to protect my family. I want to protect my loved ones.
Right.
So if I'm like, instead of like prayer, a lot of times they'll offer up like a beer or some mead to Thor. I'm offering that up, but I'm offering that to what I want to find in myself. It's kind of like I need to acknowledge this within myself.
Wow. I like that a lot. That sounds more online. Again, I always look for, again, as I get older, even the things that make sense to me that I can grasp and hold on to. And I'm not, again, I don't want to get into a deep religious discussion here, but I was baptized. I was, I guess, raised Catholic, but I never went to church. I never went to weddings, funerals. But again, my blind faith in just religion and what people say the Bible, it just doesn't gel for me. But what you're saying is more in line of, tangible, real world things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and like you said, it's not even about religion, but
Right.
we all essentially live in our own universe. We all have our own reality because we perceive things our own way.
Right.
Yep.
So I never, because I was the same. I went to Catholic school for years, but when it's very dogmatic, like you're going to do this, you're going to listen to this, and this is it, no questioning. And it's like, no one else has my experience.
Right.
No one else has lived my life. So I need to find my own thing.
Bingo.
And it's like perfect example. Like you might like a food that I find absolutely disgusting, and vice versa. Now, does this food taste good or does this food taste terrible? Because it's all perception. So that's how, like, you can't, I don't believe in any dogma. And that's a big part of, like, with the Buddhism and that too. Like, their whole belief thing is essentially like, if it works for you,
right, exactly,
keep it. If it doesn't, then don't do it. Like, don't worry about stuff that you don't know, you can't control.
That again, we could probably do a whole hour on that, but I want to get into first of all, I know people are wondering because we're about halfway through here. Best way to reach out to you, to get readings from you, to follow your socials. Could you?
I would say if you would add the Instagram.
Right.
It's kind of new, so like I'm just starting it, but that has an email address on there. Oh, I'd try it. I forgot my fiance did set me up an email address to Berserker Wrecker. Like I know you're going to share that at the end. You said
right, I will.
But that at gmail.com. It's Berserker_Wrecker on Instagram. That has where I'm going to be, everything I'm going to be doing. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me because I do get to check those fairly often. And then, yeah, I have no problem setting up something on the phone with people or, yeah. I'm sure easy to get a hold of.
Instagram is the same, Berserker Wrecker, same thing. They can look up.
Yeah, it's just there's an underscore besides Berserker and Wrecker.
Okay, I'll like I said, right after we're finished here, I'll just edit the feed and I'll put your information on top. Yeah. But I know people are wondering because I would be wondering already, and I'm sure you're going to get some emails and calls after this. So let's.
I'm also at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair every weekend.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Are they in PA or any in Jersey?
Yeah, they're in Lancaster.
Okay. None in Jersey though.
I don't think New Jersey has a Renaissance Fair.
Oh yeah, we do. We've been to a few of them.
Do you?
Yeah. Up in North Jersey.
I have to see when they're around, and I can pop in a couple weekends.
But I definitely, again, we talked a little bit at the psychic fair, and I usually I don't talk to a whole lot of the readers. I've known a lot of them for a while, and some are fairly new to me. But I saw what you were doing, and I was fascinated by it. And literally, everybody that came over to me, and they're going, "No, I want a reading or whatever." I said, "I am fascinated. I've never had that before, and I'm really go over there and do it and tell me how it was." Because I was just curious.
And they liked it.
And they would do it. They'd come over to me. I'm like, how was it? And they go, it was definitely different. It was definitely different. And I was like, wow. So then when I went over and talked to you and we were talking about everything that we talked about, which we're going to talk about in a while, I was like, wow, there's way more to this person than just casting runes and, interpreting them like tarot or whatever. That's why I right away, and I said to Chris, we got to have him on. I would love to expose the people that follow us to you, and I'm fascinated within 30 minutes.
Done a lot of the side quests so far.
Yeah. So let's change gears and let's go to the bones. How did you get into? Was it the same thing, reading bones? How much different is reading bones and runes, and how does that work?
I feel like the bones are a little more direct, and I was really into it. I was really interested in it because I want to do things the more traditional way. And when you look up, it was like the Viking shamans, essentially, the Vitki and the Volva, they did bone casting and they did runes. And it just, I couldn't quite get around it because I was using animal bones at first.
Yeah.
And that, I did not like that. I did not like the feeling I got from it because it's just part of who I am and my belief. But the animal bones always carry negativity to them because any animal you're most likely going to find bones from had a pretty tragic end.
Okay.
And to me, like that kind of carries into the readings, and it just didn't feel right. And then I was actually at an expo in a center, and I was able to come across some human bones, and I was like, oh, let's just try it again, maybe. And then I just started doing readings, and I was like, this is absolutely what I was doing wrong.
Wow.
But some people are just, they do animals. That's not how I do it. But good on them. We all got to do our own way.
But the energy from, hypothetically, again, I don't know anything about this. The energy from the person who the bones belong to doesn't enter or influence. That's not possible.
Not, I don't know. For me, no.
Okay.
I don't feel, but like the animals, 100% I did.
Gotcha.
I felt awful with the animals. It's hard to say. Maybe if I had like bones that came from a really tragic end,
Right.
I also smudged the heck out of them.
Okay.
Just because like it was an expo, and I'm like, this guy just has a picnic table full of like randomly assorted human bones. I need to really cleanse this before I bring this into the house.
Yeah.
Because there was no questions asked. He didn't even
I want to live next to that guy or near that guy. So how exactly are the bone readings done? What are you looking for? How does that whole thing work?
I do it a little differently because see, I use I think there's ulnas, radiuses, but similar to the runes, I have them hold them up, and I do it 5 times, and I look at 5 different aspects of the question. I look at like, here's the overall outline, what's going on, and then I look at what your main obstacles are going to be, energy surrounding you, advice, and the outcome if you choose to follow this advice, because nothing is written in stone here.
Okay.
But they're going to drop them, and I can interpret it, and they're going to do that 5 times.
So I would have to think of a question, or I have
No,
to say
no, you don't
the
at all.
question. Okay.
No, you don't at all.
So-
It's just kind of like, okay, this is where we're at.
So real quick, somebody said those are bigger bones than I expected.
Me too.
Yeah.
When I saw them.
I mean, I'm a big guy, and
They were. When I saw him handling them the first time, I'm like, you couldn't find like a pinky bone or something? A bunch of like.
that's more like the Caribbean and like the Yoruba, where they have like the knuckle bones in the cup. It's fascinating. I've never done it. It never like resonated with me, but I've seen it done, and it looks so cool.
Right.
So there's different ways of doing readings
Different
of
cultures,
bones. So
different
that I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, different. Like bone reading was a big thing across multiple cultures. Even like the Chinese did it at one time too. But I've only seen the Nordic style the way I do it, and honestly nobody really does it. And then mostly you'll see it among like Voodooan traditions and like Yoruba traditions, things like that.
All right, so let's give it a shot. Let's get me with the bones. I'm very afraid.
So I'm going to go right here on the table so we can see them. So I got 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, first, I'm going to hold them just like I did. This is going to be situation, what you need to know, where we're at. Oh.
That's not a good start.
I'm seeing there's 2 main things. Because I look more for like the runes in the bones. You have an I was is essentially diligence, and you have to be strong, but you also have to wait it out. You just have to be patient and deal with things that are happening right now where it's going to really test you. But your thing is you just have to stay strong through it. You can't slack, you can't let up. But the other thing is keep keep your wards up and keep yourself, not that you need to keep yourself safe, but don't expose all your plans to too many people. Don't open yourself up and like share with too many people, because right now you're still in the planning stage and you're at a spot where you're waiting things out, waiting for things to come. So just kind of keep some things to yourself a little more.
Okay.
And this is going to be an obstacle for you. Mm. The obstacle, honestly, is growth. Is Ingwaz. That's just saying it's going to be. It's not the same as your wife, because this is growth, but it's like you need to keep taking care of this, and it's all like there's a million fires in the iron right now for you, but it's almost like you need to take care of them all right now, because it's just you're going to be busy, really, really busy, coming up with a lot of stuff, and it's going to be a little frustrating because you have to follow your intuition. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people trying to step in and really tell you how to do things, but at the end of the day, if you know better, you need to follow yourself. You need to trust yourself, because everybody's going to be showing up and just telling you what you need to do. But frankly, you know better. You know what you have to do. You know what you're capable of.
Right.
But it's work. Like the success is there, but it's all about growth. So things are going to grow slowly, but it's going to be work. Some energy around you. Okay. So right now, you have some energy now, but then you have some coming up in the future. Energy now, you're just surrounded with a lot of chaos. You're surrounded with a lot of it's almost like so much stuff going on, and you're trying to do everything yourself, and everybody, like the people you're relying on sometimes, they're making it a little difficult. Not that they're lying or anything. It's just, I think maybe some people around aren't able to quite pull as much as they said they were, and they're not going to be as helpful as they said they were. So that puts a lot more on you. But I also see a Dagaz there, and Dagaz is the rune of dawn. The dawn is just saying that like the sun's coming up. And if you think of how dawn was in the ancient cultures, they had those long winters in Scandinavia where if you weren't prepared, you could easily starve to death, you could die, you could freeze to death. So when you really finally start seeing that sun come up and everything gets warm, it's telling you that good things are coming. You just need to keep moving towards it. It's just keep walking forward. The sun's coming up, you see the light, keep heading into it.
God. Wow.
Now this is going to be some advice. Interesting advice. Othala. Othala is the last of the runes. Now it does connect to ancestry and strength, and like familial strength. But as the last of the rune, it's always about cycles ending as well. So how I would say that in advice, lean on people who like maybe guides, ancestors, people who just they still have your back even though they might not be here. And there's certain things you have to let go of. It's almost like it's like the death card in tarot. There are certain cycles that you're trying to hold on to stuff you don't need to, and it's actually making it more difficult for you to move forward. And I think that's why it feels like you're overworked, because there's a lot of things around you that you absolutely don't need to keep carrying on, and you don't need to keep putting all of your energy into. It's just distracting you.
Wow.
The next one is going to be an outcome. The outcome is that Awaz. The Awaz, but there's also an Anzos. Anzos is that rune of Odin, like I said, about getting the gifts, getting the focus, and like developing the intuition. But the Awaz is there saying about the focus, the rune of a horse. I really think the outcome, honestly, is once you remove a lot of all these distractions around you, and you're going to be able to finally listen. It's almost like you have like multiple radio stations kind of coming in inside your own head, and it's just distracting your own thoughts. So you clear your thought. I really think, man, maybe like a good book on Buddhism or something would
I'm
help.
telling you, man, I'm there. I'm there.
It's just showing the biggest thing is you got a lot of distractions that you don't really need. And once you get rid of those distractions, you're going to be able to move forward and clearly hear yourself.
Wow. That is crazy. I mean, I have a busy mind. It never stops. It never shuts down.
And he's got a lot
of outside.
That show that me and my fiance were at, we were running, or like we were there at the whole show with you guys, and you're like, yeah, we got to get out of here. We have another one tonight. And I was like, hi.
And then one the next day too.
Yeah,
we had. So I mean, we're always busy.
Stop, steam full ahead.
But I got to tell you, that was really, really impressive. I mean, both was. I would recommend you to anybody and everyone I know based on just right. I mean,
oh yeah, and just without going into detail, he does have things in his life that's causing noise that causes him issues that he shouldn't even allow anymore. So that was dead on. Dead on.
Wow, that was crazy. I mean, and I was getting more worried every time you tossed them. I'm like, all right, not a bad one. Because the first time you were like, huh. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to be the one that has the bad one. And
no, it wasn't bad.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Multiple things at once. And I'm like, all right, we're almost starting with it.
Again, I'm going to post all Ed's information. If you guys are interested in, I mean, what we just went right there alone is worth doing for sure for anybody. I mean, am I right? I mean, 100%. That was nuts.
So for full disclosure, because several people asked after the fact, they're just coming on, where did your bones come from?
His neighbor.
At a medical oddities expo.
And that's why I just wanted people to know that.
And if you look, some of like they're kind of broken a little bit, it's because they're craft grade. Okay. And I'm hoping that's why the guy gave me a good discount on them, and not that he was just trying to clean some things out of his backyard. Because human bones are very expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, he cut me a really good deal, and then so I'm like I said, I'm hoping it's because they were craft grade.
Wow, I'm still like I am.
But one thing I'm going to tell you though, quick about human bones: be careful because depending what state you're in, you're not really supposed to have them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're correct.
Pennsylvania, they don't care.
I believe it. We've been doing this many, many years. I mean, 25 or more. And I do believe in my heart and in my brain that you're meant to meet certain people along your journey, you know.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of them. And I think the whole Buddhism thing, the way you describe it, is really intriguing to me because at the ripe old age of 55, I look for ways to quiet my brain and to block out all of the things that are, like you said, are not necessary. So, yeah, if you could recommend,
of course,
a book or two or a video or something, I would definitely check it out for sure.
What I would say about that, without really going too much into it right now, is there's lots of different schools. It's almost like Christianity where you have the multiple different things. Because I started with Kung Fu, I got introduced into Shaolin Chan Buddhism because that was my style, Shaolin Kung Fu, like with the monks and everything. Like my teacher up in New York is a monk, a Shaolin monk who just left China. And that might be an approach you're really interested in because like they're always doing the physical training, the working out stuff like that. But the whole method is it's like you can't have your mind distracted. You can't be focused while you're doing this stuff or you could hurt yourself.
Right.
So it's not just like the sitting and staring at a wall for 3 days. It's like be present while you're gardening, be present while you're cooking, be present while you're sweeping. It's all just pull yourself into the present.
I like that a lot. So before we go here, I know we got like 10.
Yeah, we got to talk about some really interesting.
We do want to bring in your fiance if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'll find her. There she is. She's behind me.
So part of, I poke and prod and I try to find out about everyone. And I met Ed and his fiance, whose name I forget. Erica. Now we're sitting there talking and I found out about how they met in their relationship. This is a funny story too, but it's again, fate intervened for you two. So You want to kind of give an overview of that, Erica? If you want to tell the story, you can. I don't. It's up to you guys.
Well, I was helping out at a show down in Pennsylvania, and I was just at my booth, and I was not supposed to be there. I was filling in for somebody else, and I had a stomach flu the whole week, so I had no real interest in being there, and it was just not really supposed to happen. And then Saturday I was there, and I felt like death, and I was doing readings for people, and apparently somebody who was at the table next to us recommended her that she come get a reading the next day, and then that's you.
Yep. So I wasn't supposed to be there either. I usually help my friend that's a Reiki healer at events. She has items that she sells, so usually I'll handle that while she does the Reiki. And I wasn't supposed to be there because I was actually finishing one of my last terms for school. So somehow the universe prevailed and was like, nope, you're getting everything done and everything will be perfect. Now, I've helped her at these events for about 2 years, and never has she ever told me, hey, you need to get a reading from this person. And Saturday night on her way home from the event, she was like, when you come tomorrow, you have to get the rune reading from the guy that's next to us. Now, in all this time, the person that Ed was working with, in the 2 years that I've gone to the event, it's twice a year, he has never sat next to my friend's booth. Never. We've always had other people. This was the first time ever he actually was assigned right next to us. And I kind of just, when I came in that Sunday, I was like, all right, you know what? I told him, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a rune reading from you. And he was like, all right, whatever. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, when things slowed down, then eventually it just kind of, went over and had the reading, and we just kind of started chit-chatting. And then I kind of vanished, and then all I know is that he went to my friend and asked my friend if I was single. So.
And then,
Ed, you had told me that you were kind of resolved to, like, I'm not getting any kind of relationship.
100%. Because for the last couple of years, like I was recovering from, I was with a very serious narcissist for close to a decade, and I was 100% in the mind of like, I'm never even dating again. I didn't date for 3 years. I didn't go on a single date.
Wow.
And I was just pulling in. I'm like, I'm just going to be like that weird, creepy hermit wizard, and I'll be fine. And like, as soon as she sat down at my table, like I couldn't even talk. I was just dumbfounded.
Wow.
And I got through to reading, and then I got her number, and I texted her the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went from there. We were just nonstop texting. Like I'm just sitting at home like I was a teenager with my phone, texting the whole time. And we met up the next Saturday to go out on our first official date. And we sat at this little pub, got some food, got a beer, and it was the best, probably one of the best nights of my entire life. Like I immediately just connected with this woman, and that was it. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind. I was always, not only from what I went through, but I'm also usually very stoic about a lot of things. And like 3 hours into our date, I looked at her and I was just like, so you're going to be my girlfriend? Like, are you going to be my girlfriend? And he was just 100% like, sure. We planned a vacation on our first date.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. Think about again in life, how many things had to have happened for that to work out. And we were joking at the psychic fair. I was joking with Erica saying, what do you do? Did he rig those runes and tell you, oh, look, you're going to marry me? Look, it says
exactly.
right here. And look, the bones keep saying, me, I'm the one for you. Look at that. So we were joking. And again, you guys are just the genuine, nice people.
Yeah.
And Ed, you're really talented at what you do. And I wish you guys nothing but the best. And I can't thank you enough for coming on here. We will see you again, I'm sure.
Oh, you'll be at one of our events again, 100%.
Yeah, invite me. Let me know anyone that there's any opening, I'll be.
Oh, definitely.
Because you're absolutely not far away now.
Good.
So, and yeah, I'll come to anything you guys interested in having me. I'd even like some of the ghost.
Oh yeah, you'll do
Well,
that too.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I've done a lot. I've done like some house.
Oh, he has
Housework,
seen a
so-
lot of my family. Trust me.
Oh,
like
good.
my mom passed, so she likes to mess with him all the time in the house.
Yeah,
We're getting into a whole nother. We're gonna have to come back and do that part of it.
sounds good.
So real quick, people wanted to know how long have you guys been together now?
5 months. Going to be 6 months this month.
And you're talking about getting married, right? I mean, that's
We actually got engaged 2 months, just about 2 months after we started seeing each other, and we're getting married next October 19th.
Yeah,
That's when you know, you know.
Wow. Oh, that's the same day as the psychic fair. Sorry. No, I'm kidding.
It was one of those things, and it was like I never, felt like I moved quick like that on anything. But I knew before, like weeks before I even asked her, I was like, "This is the one. This is that person."
Yeah, but you and I were talking, Ed, about that whole aspect of, when you're with someone and you're that happy,
Yes.
and you're living in the moment and everything is great. Why say let's wait 5 years and see if we're still compatible and get married? If it's right and it's meant to be, man, why not?
No.
Why not?
I mean,
No.
in this 5 months, like we lived together, and it is great.
Yeah.
This is my best friend right here.
Yeah,
in the whole world.
here. Absolute
Yeah.
same here.
So I'll put all your information up. Ed, thank you again for coming on. Erica, good seeing you again. And I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of people. I
Sounds good.
definitely think they should reach out to you. So thanks again and
Thank
have
you
a good
both.
night. We'll
You too.
talk soon.
Good
Right, no
night.
problem. See
All
ya.
right, I'm going to take you guys off the feed. So there you go. Again, when we meet people like that, remember John thinks three-dimensionally, and when we meet people like that, we definitely want to bring them on. If we're impressed and think they're good people and talented, we're going to put them in front of you, and hopefully you guys will get some readings and get to know Ed. And
We were fortunate that we got to have a conversation with them.
good people.
Yeah.
Good people. And you see, for a demonstration, that's something we try to give you as well, not just taking our word for it, putting them in front of you and watching him do what he does.
So you
for
can
both
make
of
a
us.
decision for yourself.
I mean, I was really, really impressed.
So was I. I have to admit I was.
And Susan, I know you were confused. We do live investigations. We do just discussions between the two of us, and then we'll bring people on to interview them about certain subjects and have them do demonstrations. So the more you watch, the more you'll see what we do. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your support. We'll be back. I don't know if Creeper Gallery is going to happen this week. We'll see how we feel. We're real busy. But Friday is another live. We'll be back before then. But Friday, we're having Courtney Aileen, I think her name is, near-death experience, premonitions, visitations. She's got a whole big life
There's
experience.
layers
Of
there.
things that
There's
have happened
so
to
many
her.
things.
And then October 10th, I haven't announced it yet. Chris Williams from Ghost Hunters will be joining us as well. And then at the end of the month, we'll do the dream interpretation with Jefferson, and Cody Satori will be joining us later in October. So lots going on in October.
And do you have enough dreams? Or
No, I still need if there's anybody out there with any dreams they want to join us, then yeah, send me an inbox through the page. But thanks for watching. Again, we appreciate all your support.
have a good night. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and remember to be kind to each other.
See you later,
Good
guys.
night.